All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here presenting. My name is Nicole Zanier. I'm with the Behavioral Sciences Group at the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute. And I'm here today to talk to you about a large group of older drivers and characteristics of the vehicles that they drive, as far as condition, maintenance, and the presence of advanced in-vehicle technologies and assistive vehicle adaptations or modifications. So the vehicle assessments I'm going to talk to you about are part of a larger study called the Longitudinal Research on Aging Drivers Study. So what I'm going to start out with is a brief overview of that study before I actually get into the vehicle assessments. Okay, just really quickly, I want to acknowledge the study sponsor, the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety. I also want to acknowledge all the groups that collaborate and assist in the data collection and the data management for the Long Road Study, those being Johns Hopkins, University of Colorado, Denver, Bassett Medical Center, UC San Diego, University of Michigan, and Columbia University. Okay, so as Dr. E.B. and Dr. O already mentioned, the population is aging globally. We're older now than we've ever been in history, and we're only going to continue to get older. I have a couple of statistics for you today. 8.5% of people worldwide are age 65 and over, and that number is projected to reach 17% by the year 2050. In the United States, the over 65 population is projected to reach 83.7 million in 2050, which would account for 21% of the population. And like most of everyone, older adults prefer driving to other modes of transportation. Driving gives us a sense of independence, a sense of belonging in the community. But as people age, they are more likely to have medical conditions and to take medications that could compromise safe driving abilities. 3 general classes that can decline: psychomotor, perceptual, and cognitive. So for example, with movement, with age, it might become harder to get in and out of the vehicle. Strength might decline, making it harder to turn the wheel or check the blind spot. Vision can decline, particularly at night. And then you can also, with thinking, forget where you're going, things like that. So the Long Road Study is a study of older drivers, and we're seeking to answer a few research questions. What are the risk and protective factors in older driver safety? What are the effects of medication on driving behavior and outcomes? What are the effects of declining physical functioning on self-regulation of driving? What is the extent, the use, and the effect of new vehicle technology and aftermarket vehicle adaptations? And I've highlighted this one because the vehicle assessments tie directly back to this research question. And also we want to find out what causes people to stop driving and what are the impacts of driving cessation on their health and their quality of life. So just to give you a few Long Road Study details, the project is managed by the principal investigator, Dr. Guohao Li at Columbia, co-principal investigator, Dr. David W. Eby from Umtree, and co-principal investigator, Mr. Robert Santos at the Urban Institute. We're collecting data at 5 sites throughout the United States: Ann Arbor, Michigan, Cooperstown, New York, Denver, Colorado, Baltimore, Maryland, and San Diego, California. And our Long Road Study is projected to continue through April 2019. Okay, so this is our Long Road Study design. We have participants that we've enrolled, and we follow them for 2 to 3 years, and we assess them annually, either in person or over the phone, depending on the year. The assessments that we do and the data collected measure driving, cognition, motor perception, demographics, their mental health, their physical health, their social health, and psychosocial factors. We also instrument each of our participants' primary vehicle with a Danlaw data logger, which is a small device that plugs into the diagnostic port on the vehicles and collects detailed driving data. And then also we do inspections on their primary vehicles with the goal to better understand aging and mobility in relation to a person's vehicle. I'm going to talk more about those soon. So we finished enrolling, and we ended up with 2,991 total participants. We broke those down into 3 older driver age groups with an equal number of men and women. So we ended up with 42% of our participants in the 65 to 69 age range, 35% in the 70 to 74, and 24% in the 75 to 79 age range. To be eligible, our participants had to meet a few criteria. Of course, they needed to have a valid driver's license, driving at least once per week on average, receiving their primary care through the site's health system because we do collect their medical records. They need to reside in the study area 10 months out of the year with no plans to move in the next 5 years. Their vehicle should be 1996 or newer. That's how we're able to install the DANLA data logger that I mentioned. They need to be driving one vehicle at least 80% of the time and no significant cognitive impairment when we enroll them. And we use a 6-item screener to determine that. Okay, so I just want to briefly talk about what happens when a participant comes in. They come in, they complete the informed consent on the study. We install the DANLA data logger, which is pictured on the top right there. We also inspect the vehicle. The participant completes an in-person assessment on their physical functioning. We also administer a couple of surveys, a driving and health questionnaire and a vehicle technology questionnaire. We take a look, we ask them to bring in all the prescription medications and the supplements that they're taking for our brown bag medication review. We abstract their medical records, and we also review their driver and crash history. And all of that data is managed by the Columbia Data Center. Okay, so just to talk to you a little bit more about the objective driving data that we collect through the hands-on vehicle inspection. So our vehicle inspection we conduct biannually and whenever the participant changes vehicles. So they come in at the baseline, we inspect their vehicle. When they come in again 2 years later for the in-person assessment, we inspect their vehicle again. But if they change their vehicle, maybe their lease was up or some other reason, they give us a call and we inspect their new vehicle. It's a 15-minute inspection where we collect data on the maintenance as far as the tire pressure, the tire tread depth. We turn the engine on, we see if there's any warning lights that are on that might indicate a problem with the car. We test the wipers and the washer fluid. We check each one of the lights to make sure that they're working and they're not broken. We also take an inventory of any damage on the vehicle as far as dents, scratches, cracks or chips in the windshield or the windows, rust, or any major damage that might be on the vehicle. And then we visually check for any in-vehicle technologies that might be present and any aftermarket vehicle adaptations that might have been made to the vehicle. So this is a list of the advanced technologies that we're looking for. On the right side there are some of the icons or the symbols that we use to determine if any of these technologies are present. We have a detailed guide for all of the sites to use with all the different icons or symbols that would lead an inspector to believe that these technologies are present in the vehicle. So for example, adaptive cruise control, ACC, if we see that. Semi-autonomous parking assist, a backup parking assist system would be like a backup camera or sensors that go off when the vehicle's too close to an object. A blind spot warning system, the bottom right picture there has an icon that would indicate that. Fatigue drowsy driver alert, forward collision warning. That's the picture next to the mirror, that's a FCM, forward collision monitor. That's what determines, that's one of the examples for that one. Lane departure warning, navigation, night vision enhancement, and a voice control system. So those are the technologies that we're looking for. Okay, this is a list of the adaptations or the modifications that we're looking for. These are adaptations that a participant might make to their vehicle to make driving easier or safer for them. For example, driver's seat cushioning, convex or multifaceted mirrors, custom armrests, a safety belt extension or cushioning. That's pictured in the top pictures there. Upper body support, any sort of modifications to the steering wheel that might be make steering easier. So in the pictures there, that's called a V-grip, and the steering knob. There are others. Also, we look for pedal extensions. That's at the bottom picture there. A gas pedal block with a left foot throttle, hand controls, an aftermarket push button ignition, and any sort of adapted controls like an adapted wiper, horn, turn signal, and so forth. These are just a few examples of some of the modifications that we've seen at the Michigan site. So on the top left, that's actually a gas pedal block with a left foot throttle, so that participant can use just their left foot to drive the vehicle. Top right, that's an example of a seatbelt extender that somebody's put in. Bottom left, that's an example of some of the cushioning that we see on the driver's seats. And the last two pictures there, the first one has a steering knob and a hand control. And then the picture next to it kind of shows you how the hand controls are connected to the pedals. Okay, so this is just a taste of the data. Oh, sorry. Can you still hear me? Okay. So we're finding that the majority of vehicles seem to be well maintained. Like I mentioned, we look at each light. We test each light, the brake lights, the headlights, the high beams, the turn signal. And we find that 99% of the vehicles, those lights are working. And 99% of those lights are not broken, meaning the casing's not broken, the bulb's not broken. We also test the wipers and the fluid, like I mentioned. On 99.9% of the vehicles, those are working. 98%, the washer fluid's working. We also inspect to make sure that all the mirrors are present and not broken, meaning there's no cracks in the mirrors. The mirror itself is intact and on the vehicle. We find that 99% of those mirrors are present and not broken. The windshield, we check that for cracks and chips. 90% come back damage-free. We find 2% have cracks, 8% of the vehicles have chips in the windshield. And then with the windows, all the windows combined, 99.6% are damage-free. We also turn the engine on, like I mentioned, to check for any dashboard warning lights that might be illuminated. We find on 4% of our vehicles the check engine light is on, as well as the tire pressure monitor is on in 4% of our vehicles, and 1.5% of our vehicles the change oil light's on. Okay, so this is just a slide to give you an idea of the kind of damage that we find on our participants' vehicles. We inspect 7 regions of the vehicle: driver's side, passenger side, front, rear bumper, the hood, the trunk or tailgate, and the roof. And we have a detailed manual for all the sites to use that lays out exactly what to look for as far as damage. So we're looking for rust, dents, and scratches, and major damage. Major damage would be any kind of damage that indicates that the vehicle has been in a crash. But for the rust, the dents, the scratches, we have different levels: minor, moderate, or severe, or small, medium, and large dents. So for example, on the front bumper, we find 17% of those front bumpers have moderate scratching, which is scratches that are between 3 and 12 inches long. 5% of the front bumpers would have severe scratching, which is scratches that are longer than 12 inches, or a lot of scratching all over the bumper. And similarly, rust, dents, those have minor, moderate, and severe levels. You can kind of see what we're finding on the front bumper: major damage. 2% of our vehicles have that on the front bumper, and only 0.8% on the rear bumper. And you can kind of see with the passenger side and the driver's side what we're finding as far as rust, dents, and scratches. Okay, so this is a list of the most prevalent in-vehicle technologies that we're finding in our participants' vehicles. In 44% of our participants' vehicles, we find a voice control system, which is a system that allows you to control vehicle features just with your voice. In 38% of the vehicles, we're finding a backup camera or a parking assist system of some type. In 1/4 of the vehicles, we find a navigation assistance system. 10% we find a blind spot warning system, and then 6% lane departure warning, and 5% forward collision. And these are the most prevalent adaptations or modifications that we're finding in our participants' vehicles. 11% of the vehicles we find cushions on the driver's seat. 10% we find convex or multifaceted mirrors on the vehicle. And in 2.5% we find seatbelt cushioning inside the vehicle. All the other adaptations that I mentioned, we find 0.6% in 0.6% of the vehicles or less. Okay, so the next steps with their long road inspection data is we want to analyze it by age group, gender, and other demographic variables such as income level, education, work status, and so forth. We want to compare our inspection data to follow-up vehicle inspections to see if there are any changes as the years go by and what might those be. And we do have a publication coming soon on the baseline inspection data. You can find that at longroadstudy.org, along with all the other publications that we've produced so far. And then if we have questions at the end, it's also my email address.
Thank you.
Sorry.